excited to have you here today. This is going to be New Comic Book Day, August the 11th of 2021, and this is going to be quite an extensive list. There is a ton of free Comic Book Day books coming out this week, and so I'm excited to get into it and talk about some of the books that I'm excited about. Before I ramble too long, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, connect, follow, do whatever you do on the platform you're on. Just look for my furry face inside of an orange circle and click all the buttons next to it. So the first book on this list is Adventures of Adrienne James #1. This is a heavy metal book. It's written by Matt Medney, Bruce Edwards, and Geraldo Borges. And I don't really know too much about it, but it has that heavy metal branding that they're doing right now with the kind of like a brown background with the image in the circle and all the naming below. I believe it's called Heavy Metal Elements or something to that effect. So it's a pretty new line they're doing. They've got a couple of books coming out from there. I haven't got to read Black Beacon by Ryan K. Lindsay, but I love the pages that I've seen from it so far, and it's definitely on my list to get to very soon. This has just been an extremely busy month for me, and well, I guess July and going into August now. They've been very busy. I'm looking at another 2 weeks of like very busy, so my reading's falling a little bit behind, but I am keeping a list of books that I definitely want to go back and check out, and Black Beacon is on there, and that gives me a lot of interest and intrigue into what heavy metal's doing right now. So I saw this Adventures of Adrienne James #1 is dropping. I want to check that out because I'm interested in what heavy metal's doing with comic books right now. So that's an interesting title on the list. The next book up is probably well known by most, but Batman 89 #1. This is from DC Comics, of course, and it continues the universe that was introduced in Tim Burton's Batman in 1989. So we're going to continue on in that universe, and we're going to see I think some new characters are going to be there that weren't actually present in the movie. I believe Harvey Dent is supposed to be a big focus of this story, and we're going to get to see Keaton's Batman make his return, and so I'm really interested to see where they go with that and how they play that out. There's also a Superman title that's coming out that is going to continue the Christopher Reeves, Richard Donner universe of Superman stuff. So it's pretty cool to see DC going back to these unique universes and kind of doing a comic book extension of those cinematic qualities. And I'm excited to check it out. I think both of those titles are slated for 6-issue, 6-month release schedules. But I wouldn't be surprised if they get picked up and continue on if people are really excited and enjoy what's going on there. So I'm excited to check out Batman 89 and kind of get our first inkling of a clue as to what this is going to be like and what this return to that cinematic universe could have potentially been like had Tim Burton continued after Batman Returns. CAMPISI, The Dragon Incident #1. This is an Aftershock title. It's a new #1 from Aftershock, so of course I'm on board. I shouldn't say always, but I usually love what Aftershock has been doing over the last year or two, and a new #1 from Aftershock is definitely a must grab for me. The other important point here is James Patrick, who wrote Kaiju Score, is also responsible for this title. It's about a character who is like a fixer for the mob in like a fantasy realm, I guess. Not so much a fantasy setting, but there seems to be like some fantasy elements to it, and he's kind of a fixer for the mob, and a dragon shows up, and so like this is his new big job. Like he's gonna, as a fixer, he's gonna go in and like get rid of this dragon, and there's supposed to be some things that ensue there. It's supposed to be kind of an action comedy sort of thing with like some personal introspection. So I'm excited to check that out. It sounds like a lot of fun. I thought Kaiju Score was an incredibly unique and interesting world with a heist plot dropped into it, and it just made it really cool. and I'm excited to see what James Patrick does with this like fantasy mob setup. So sounds like a lot of fun. I'll definitely be checking that out. Hardware season number 1 will be out. Issue number 1 will be out from Milestone, and I'm excited to check this one out. I still haven't got around to Icon and Rocket number 1 yet, but I wasn't super impressed with the direction they went with Static as a character in this new Milestone universe, but I did really like the Icon and Rocket and Hardware stories that were in the Milestone Returns kind of like preview overview sort of thing. And so these are definitely two books that I have my eyes on, so hopefully I'll get to check out Icon and Rocket pretty soon here, and then Hardware number 1 will be dropping this week, and I definitely want to check that one out as well. And I'm really excited for that universe. I've actually been rewatching Static Shock, the animated series that was on WB back in the early mid-2000s, and I'm pretty much almost done with it. I've watched all of seasons 1 and 2. This Saturday we'll be doing on DCUI through the community. They do a watch along, so we've been on season 4, and this Saturday will be the wrap up of season 4. So these are characters in a universe that I'm familiar with to a certain extent, and I really like these characters. I really like that universe, and so I'm excited to see Milestone returning in comic books, and finally getting to dip my toes into the universe as far as like what comic books do with that stuff. But I was a little disappointed in how they characterized Static in that first issue, and so I hope we get to see a lot more of Milestone and really get to see it develop out into something that is just as endearing and enjoyable as what we got out of the Static Shock show and what I know of the previous Milestone stuff from the 90s. The 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, number 3. This is a Skybound title. It's, that's kind of a selling point. And then Kyle Starks, he's a writer he's like a comic book comedy writer. And he's one of the few writers I would say is consistently humorous. There's a lot of comic books that struggle with being funny because it's such an odd medium to try to do comedy in. But Kyle Starks has somehow nailed it, and I'm really enjoying the 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. I've only read the first one, and I've read some of the preview stuff from Skybound X, and it's all just got this great sense of humor about it. It's very irreverent. It deals a lot in like the world of TV, and I don't even know if it's as much like the modern day TV business where we have streaming and it's handled a little more like movies now, but it definitely delves into the world of like 90s sitcoms and 90s television, characters like over-the-top actors and characters like Chuck Norris and Walker Texas Ranger, so it's kind of in that vein. It takes this character that just like has no respect for any of humanity, and he passes away. And while this should be like a great moment for everybody that's ever hated this guy, because he's just absolutely awful to everybody, at the same time it's having this rippling effect in the lives of different sidekicks he had on all these different shows and properties and stuff that he worked on. And so I think it's really interesting to look at how a human can affect the people around them and the world that they inhabit in both positive and negative ways, and what the rippling effects of that can be. So I've really enjoyed the first issue and what I've read of 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. I'm really excited to jump into the second one here pretty soon, and then the third one will be out this week, so definitely something I want to get caught up on. Eve, number 4, from Boom Studios. Victor LaValle and Joe Migyeong is this book has been pretty stellar so far. I felt like the first issue was a little bit of just like a straight up exposition dump, and even in my review of the first one I said I feel like this might be the least revisited issue of the series for me. I really felt like the adventure was going to be great once we got into that, and sure enough, that second issue just like hit the ground running. We took off into the world, we got to see all kinds of things. Issue number 3 was great, and I'm excited for issue 4 number here as we continue the adventure. The cover does show, it looks like Eve facing Eve, so maybe we're going to find out that The original Eve that we know of is a clone, and the original copy, or I guess the original version, is out there in the world, because we do see a lot of scarring and stuff. So it seems like somebody that's lived in this world that we're going to have to watch Eve deal with and tackle. I think it's an interesting premise because it takes a lot of the like a lot of knowns out of the equation, and so we really get to see Eve exploring the world and learning things, and we get to learn along with her. And I think it's a great way to present the story. The artwork is really cool. It's really beautiful. It has like this great like animated look to it, but not so much in the sense of like this should be an animated series. It gives enough realism to everything, but it definitely has like a great look to it. And my only complaint there is there are some panels and some interactions where it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly what's going on. But all in all, the storytelling is solid, and I'm really enjoying it on a whole. And I think the message is great as well. It's dealing a lot with climate change and the future of the planet and what we as humans are doing to it. So I think it's got a great message behind it, and I've really enjoyed the read so far. Infinite Frontier number 4 from DC, and this has quite a few people working on it, but overall it's really come together. Joshua Williamson is writing it, and I really enjoy the way that he writes stories. They're very modern, but they also have this very like classic feel to them. They feel like comic books, and I really like that about his writing. I've really enjoyed Infinite Frontier. I wasn't sure that this was necessarily going to be something for me. I don't generally get into like kind of event stuff and like big groups of people and stuff like that, but somehow they've managed to elevate this beyond like the group itself, and they're really structuring the universe in interesting ways, and they're setting up this whole omniverse thing. And so I'm excited to see what the impact of Infinite Frontier is going to be going forward. There's also some cool characters in here that for me are brand new. For other people, they've seen them before, but it seems like they've been missing from the universe for a while and things like that. So I'm really excited for all these characters to be here and for people to be excited about them coming back. I think it's just really elevated Infinite Frontier into something worth reading, and I definitely suggest checking that out. It's been solid all 3 issues so far. Justice League Last Ride number 4. This is a Chip Zdarsky book, and it's been pretty stellar so far. I felt like there was a little bit of a dip with the second issue. I liked the content that was in it. I didn't really care for the way that the story itself was structured, but number 3 really brought it back. We got Batman being like very memey, and his sense of humor is very strange, but also like kind of on the nose. And so I think that's interesting, because he's important to this group, but like they're on Apocalypse, they're dealing with like all kinds of crazy stuff coming after them, and so you have Batman, this human that just like knows how to prep and plan, and so that's kind of his role in this. Like he's not nearly as much of a combatant as he is the guy that's kind of like plotting and planning everything out to make sure that they stand the best chance for the onslaught that's coming their way. And so I think it's been a really good book so far. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed the sense of humor. I've enjoyed a lot of the adventure and the character interactions, and the action's been good. The artwork is Miguel Mendonca, and I really like the way he does like these little silhouette panels that basically perfectly show you like who the character is, but you know, they're a silhouette, and so it's really cool. Wonder Woman's often like a black silhouette, and then she'll have like the gold trim, so you can kind of tell like who this is. You know, we've seen some Batman, Superman's often a black silhouette with the red cape and stuff. It's just a great way to present these characters without having to show us exactly who they are, but still making them recognizable. And so I've really enjoyed the book overall. I think it's been a lot of fun so far. And Detective Comics 1041. This has been a great book. It looks like Dan Mora is going to be back on art for this issue, so I'm really excited for that. Not that the art has been lacking, but there's just something about Dan Mora's art that's kind of next level. I just love how much energy there is in each and every image he does. And I think, you know, it's great to have him around for for Detective Comics, because this is kind of a title that, you know, it has this great like darkness and Bruce Wayne is really like trying to learn and discover what's going on. So we're getting like some detective work here, and it creates this great contrast for Dan Mora, where he gets to draw, you know, Bruce Wayne being like this kind of like slower paced detective, but then you bring in Batman and the action goes over the top, and that contrast, I think, just really elevates how great he is as an illustrator and as an artist. So I've really loved what Mariko Tamaki's doing here. The story's been really awesome. It's been a great setup, and I'm excited to see where it continues to go. This is one of those books, like I often tell people, like it hasn't like blown me away yet. I've only been reading for probably like around 10 issues or so right now. But I don't think any one issue has like blown me away, but it's been very consistent in delivery. Like it's always a book that ranks well on my list, somewhere around like a 7 or 8. And I do feel like it's building towards something really interesting. So I'm excited to see where things go next. And then from there, I'm just going to throw out all the free comic book day issues that caught my attention. I'm going to try to grab as many free comic book day issues as I can, but there are some that I definitely want to get my hands on here. So we have Trailer Park Boys from Devil's Due. This is going to be a Trailer Park Boys free comic book day issue, and I suspect it's a setup for this series, because I think they have like a 4-part issue, 4 or 5 issue mini series kind of Trailer Park Boys thing coming up. So I think this is kind of going to be a preview to get into that series. And I love the Trailer Park Boys. I thought it was a great show. Absolutely loved it. The movie was awesome. And so I'm always excited for those characters to come back around. Judge Dredd #1 from Rebellion. I'm not sure exactly what this is. I don't know if it's a reprint of early Judge Dredd stuff, or if they're setting up a new series, or if they're just going to give us a sampling of the character. But I always enjoy 2000 AD, and I like Judge Dredd as a character. I think he's a very interesting reflection of the world we live in today. And so I really enjoy reading his stuff, and I would definitely be excited to pick up a free issue of that. Red Room #1 from FANTOGRAPHICS, and this is another one. It's labeled #1, so I don't know if it's just a reprint of the first issue, or if this is going to be a sample piece or something completely original. But I have the second issue. Steve Hayner sent it to me, and so I'm really excited to check out the series, because I did miss out on the first issue, and then I kind of heard mixed reviews about it. Some people are just like over the moon on it. Other people feel like it was just okay. So I want to check it out, but I don't want to start with the second issue. So hopefully getting Red Room on Free Comic Book Day will be a good entry point into that universe, so I can see if it's something that I enjoy. Sonic the Hedgehog 30th Anniversary. I've actually been recently reading a Sonic the Hedgehog trade collection, because it was A-okayed to me from Comic-Cade. Awesome guy. He's the biggest kid in comics, as he likes to say. So he does a lot of stuff like Sonic the Hedgehog and Scooby-Doo and those kinds of things. Great properties, great characters. And I've been reading the trade that he sent me, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been great. I've been reading it with my 3-year-old, and she's in and out of it, you know, but it does have her interest. She's really into Sonic. She thinks he's awesome. She likes the movie. She watches that quite often. And recently they drink these little like Danimal yogurts or whatever, and so recently Sonic's been a character that appears on the yogurt, and so that just like has her over the moon. Anytime we go to the store, I want Sonic. So we have to get more yogurt, and we actually need to slow down on buying it, because we have too many in the refrigerator as is. So yeah, Sonic has been a character that's pretty popular in my household the last year or so, and I'm definitely excited to check out a free comic book day issue of that. The Legend of Korra, Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is a property I love. I haven't watched very much of The Legend of Korra, but Avatar was something that was coming out when I was like at the perfect age, and I really enjoyed it then. I still enjoy going back to it now. I've been trying to get my kids into it, but it just doesn't, I think it hasn't aged well for them. And so whenever they sit down to watch it, the first thing that my 13-year-old complains about is like how washed out the colors are and how old the animation style is. I still love it. I think it still looks great, but for him it doesn't quite work, and so he hasn't got sucked into that universe. But I'm hoping maybe if I can get this free comic book day issue, maybe that'll help endear him a little more to the property, since it'll be more up to date and more interesting to him possibly. And he's the kind of person, much like myself, once he gets sucked into a universe, it really doesn't matter what the visuals look like, he's just ready to go with it. And so that's kind of my goal here, is hopefully I can get this free comic book day issue and kind of get him sucked into the universe and the story and everything, and get him past those little hiccups that are holding him back, and then boom, we'll have another Avatar fan. Valiant Uprising. This is a Valiant book. It looks like it's going to be a couple of little pieces of the different Valiant characters. I'm a big fan of the Valiant universe. I love the way they handle their world building and their universe building. I love the way they handle events and things like that. I wish the big two would adopt a little more of their style in that aspect, because it's manageable. I think anybody can drop into the Valiant universe at pretty much any time and get up to speed very quick and understand what's going on and where these characters are coming from and all that kind of stuff. The way the cover's set up, it kind of reminds me of what Skybound has done with Skybound X. There's like a big image of, it's almost like a full cover of Exo Manowar, and then they have little bubbles that show images of like Shadow Man, and I think Ninjak is on the front there. So it looks like we're going to get like an Exo Manowar story, and then a couple of little vignettes from other characters. I do know somewhere on the cover, or maybe in the synopsis, it mentioned find out the future of Shadow Man. So I think because Shadow Man was coming out, and then I think it hit a hiatus, or maybe this is free comic book day getting shifted around that's messing this up, but it's talking about like find out about where Shadow Man is headed. So I don't know what that means exactly, but Cullen Bunn's been doing big things with Shadow Man on in the comic series, so it'll be interesting to see what the tease is here in this Valiant Uprising book. And then the last one is probably the most excitement I have for free comic book day. We Live: The Last Days. And if you know anything about me, I absolutely love We Live. I think that series is incredible. It's extremely unique. It's pretty much been spoiled at this point, but I still think that the adventure that you go on and the reading involved there, and the twists and turns, and all the character work that goes into it, and the world building, I'm so excited to find out about The Last Days. As I understand it, it focuses on 4 characters that are not the main characters of the We Live series that we have so far, and it takes place after the bracelets drop but before We Live starts. And so it looks like we're going to get maybe some origin story out of some of the side characters that were involved in We Live, and a little bit more of an explanation of what it was like just before the first story started. And I'm excited for that. Whether it's amazing or not, if it adds anything to the universe, that'll be great. And then I think it just helps kind of re-cement the idea that We Live is as good as I think it is, because it's honestly like one of my favorite series I've ever read. It's probably one of the most unique comics I've ever read. I love the way that they twisted the ending and kind of recontextualized that whole story into like from what it seemed like to what it actually was. And there's just not a lot of books that are able to hold on to secrets like that anymore. They pretty much tell you everything. They spoil the book so much in previews, and maybe I didn't read enough previews to get the end spoiled for me, but I'm definitely grateful that it wasn't spoiled for me, because I think it made the book that much more fun to read, and that ending that much more amazing. So I'm excited for more of We Live. I know they have they've told us that they have like 3 seasons worth of stories, so that sounds like about 15 issues to me. And then they have a couple of one-shots and stuff that they've planned out. So this is a universe they're working on. It seems to be a thing that Aftershock is like completely behind. Issue number 1 of We Live has gotten, I think, 5 printings at this point, 6 printings, something like that. So this is a book that's really operating on word of mouth, and people read it, they loved it, they told their friends, and their friends went out and found it. I know several people have read the book just because Mark from Legion of Comics and myself have spoken so highly about it and pushed it so much because it's just such a unique story and a great world. I love the color work in it. I've never been more infatuated with the colorist, if I'm being totally honest. Like Eva de la Cruz, anything she's on at this point, absolutely going to pick up. I love her color work. I think she puts a lot of vibrancy into it. She's on Out of Body right now with Inaki Miranda as well, and I just think like the work that she's doing, absolutely great, fits the world perfectly. She really knows how to bring things to life, and then also like kind of make things dull and mute when they need to be, so that you can they draw your focus where it needs to go. So I think her color work is fantastic. Inaki Miranda does a great job with the artwork and the storytelling visually. And then you know, he worked with his brother Roy on his first project ever in We Live, so I'm excited to see what they do with Last Days as they continue to build out and explore that universe. So that's all I have for today. There are a couple of other books that are coming out that I'm interested in that I chose to leave off the list just for time's sake, I guess. And I think, you know, this is going to be a big week for comics. August the 11th is absolutely packed. Plus, you have all the free comic book day stuff dropping. So I know this has been a longer episode. I know there's a lot of books that I brought up here, but I'm excited for all of them. I really don't have any top choices here. Batman 89 is a new #1. This sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun to get back into that universe. 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton has been a great series in my eyes so far. Infinite Frontier is doing a great job with universe building. The Last Ride, Justice League Last Ride, has just been a great read. You know, it's just like a lot of fun, but there's also this real serious threat that's going on. I think Detective Comics has been building out into something really cool, and I'm excited to see what the tipping point is of Mariko's story here. And then of course you have all the free comic book day stuff coming out. Who can complain about free comics? It's going to be a great week. I'm excited to read all of this and eventually get caught up, hopefully. And that's pretty much all I have for you today. So let me know in the comments below, what free comic book day issues are you focused on? Which ones have your attention, and what are you most excited to grab out of the free stacks that should be in every store this week? That's all I have for you today. Until next time, keep flipping pages.
You